The World Cup is the biggest shop window in football. 4 weeks where the whole planet is watching and where a single tournament can turn a good player into a £100 million superstar. But the shop window works both ways, because for every player who used this summer to make himself unmissable, there's another who watched his price tag quietly crumble in front of 80,000 people. Sporting directors were taking notes, chief executives were doing sums, and a lot of them walked away thinking the same thing: we are not paying that. These are the players whose stocks fell because of this World Cup. Let's get into it. Let's start with the most talked about name on the market, Diomande. Now, before the comments explode, I know what you're thinking. Diomande was brilliant. And you're right, he was man of the match on his debut against Ecuador. He assisted Nicolas Pepe against Curaçao. He became the only player this century to complete 10 dribbles and create 10 chances in his first 3 World Cup games. Ivory Coast reached the knockout stages for the first time in their history. So how on earth is he on this list? Here's the crazy part. Right before the tournament, Liverpool bid a reported €116 million for him, and RB Leipzig turned it down. They wanted more. And then the world actually got to watch him week after week against proper opposition. What did they see? A wonderfully exciting 19-year-old who dribbles, creates and thrills. What they did not see was a player who decides games. 3 group matches and no goals. Chances created by the bucket load, but no moment where he grabbed the tournament by the throat himself. Diomande's reputation went up, his price came down. Because the biggest clubs in Europe watched him for a month and decided he isn't yet worth what Leipzig were demanding. If Diomande's stock wobbled, our next man's went into freefall. Say hello to Omar Marmush. This is a Manchester City forward, a player City paid around £65 million for, reportedly on wages of £300,000 a week. He arrived in North America as Egypt's second attacking weapon alongside Mohamed Salah. And Egypt were sensational, reaching the knockout stages for the first time in their history and taking Argentina right to the wire. But Marmush, he was nowhere. 5 appearances, 0 goals, 0 assists, 11 shots across the entire tournament, with exactly 1 on target. Read that again, 1 shot on target in 5 World Cup matches. He fluffed a 1-on-1, and his goal drought for club and country stretched past 8 games. And the verdict came from his own manager. For Egypt's biggest match in history, the round of 16 against Argentina, Hossam Hassan dropped him. Not injured, just not good enough. With Marmush already pushing for a move away from the Etihad, City supporters were openly saying that if anybody offers £30 million, take it and run. That's a player whose value halved on live television. And speaking of forwards who spent this tournament watching from the bench, let's talk about Julian Alvarez. Here's a genuine World Cup winner. In 2022, he was Argentina's hero, scoring 4 goals including that famous brace against Croatia. He arrived this summer with Real Madrid reportedly offering €150 million, and Alvarez himself pushing hard to leave Atletico Madrid. So what happened? An ankle problem wrecked his preparation, and Lautaro Martinez seized his shirt. Alvarez didn't start against Algeria. He didn't start against Austria either. When he finally got a start against Jordan, Argentine newspaper Olé handed him a rating of 6, the lowest of any starter, while Clarín gave him a 5 and said he looked nowhere near his usual level. Lautaro scored in that very same match. By the knockout rounds, a man valued at €150 million was a substitute in his own team. And every club circling him this summer watched that unfold and asked a very expensive question. And if you think being benched hurts, spare a thought for Igor Thiago. This man had just finished one of the great Premier League seasons, 22 goals for Brentford, second in the scoring charts behind only Erling Haaland. In fact, he became the first Brazilian in history to score more than 20 goals in a single Premier League campaign, ever. Valued at around €65 million, he walked into Carlo Ancelotti's Brazil squad having genuinely earned his shot. He started the opener against Morocco. He battled hard, forced a save out of Bunu, and was hauled off after 62 minutes. And that was it. That was his entire World Cup. Not another single minute. As one writer put it beautifully, the highest scoring Brazilian in Premier League history finished the tournament with fewer minutes than Brazil's backup goalkeeper. Now, Brazil were a shambles, limping out in 11th place, their second worst World Cup finish in history. So the blame isn't all his, but here's the brutal reality for a striker. Clubs wanted to see whether those Brentford goals could translate against the world's finest defences. Instead, they watched a manager weigh up his options and decide Thiago wasn't one of them. Sometimes your stock doesn't fall because of what you did, it falls because of what you never got the chance to do. Now, let's head to Germany, where Felix Nmecha had the strangest tournament of the lot. In the group stage, he was outstanding. He scored Germany's first goal of the World Cup against Curaçao, a beautifully curled finish. He set up Deniz Undav's stoppage time winner against Ivory Coast, winning 10 duels and making 8 tackles along the way. His manager Julian Alvarez had already called him world class. Then the knockouts arrived. Against Paraguay, Germany's biggest game, Nmecha was hauled off at half-time. Germany went out on penalties at the round of 32, and the German media absolutely slaughtered him, questioning his consistency when it mattered most. And here's the problem. Borussia Dortmund have slapped a reported £100 million price tag on his head, with Manchester United circling. But United have just watched a midfielder who bullies weaker sides and vanishes against better ones. Nmecha is a good footballer. At 100 million, he needs to be a decisive one. This tournament suggested he isn't. That same story, almost word for word, applies to Kenan Yildiz. Juventus consider the 21-year-old untouchable, valuing him at €100 million, with Arsenal making a formal inquiry and Manchester United sniffing around. He'd just come off 10 goals and 6 assists in Serie A. He wears Juve's number 10. They're calling him the next Del Piero. Then Turkey turned up at the World Cup and produced one of the great collapses. Defeats to Australia and Paraguay knocked them out before the final group game. In their first 2 matches, Turkey mustered 62 shots and did not score a single goal. 62! And Yildiz, their supposed talisman, fired 14 shots of his own without finding the net once. Juventus still want their 100 million, but the clubs being asked to pay it have just watched him blaze 14 blanks on the biggest stage there is. So there you have it. 6 players who walked into this World Cup with the world at their feet and walked out worth considerably less than when they arrived. And that's the lesson. Club form can be flattering. You can hide in a good team, in a system built for you, against tired defences in a league you know inside out. But at a World Cup, there's nowhere to hide. The whole planet is watching, the margins are razor thin, and every sporting director in Europe is sitting there holding a calculator. Reputations are built here, but make no mistake, they're destroyed here too. So what do you think? Did any of these lads get judged too harshly? And who else saw their value tumble this summer? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video. Catch you in the next one.
Hey fam, this is your chance to build the jersey collection you've been waiting for. The Goal 90 bundle deal is live. Buy 2 jerseys and get 10% off. Buy 3 and get 15% off. Buy 4 and get a massive 25% off. Club kits, country kits, retro classics, pick your favourites and save big. And yes, every order comes with free worldwide shipping. Goal 90 bundle deal. Buy more, save more. Shop now at Goal 90 Shop.